this is a new product we've just released. It's a flat wheelie bar to suit a variant of cars, DTO2, 03, Team SC10 and also the HPI Blitz. But we also sell this as a blank mounting plate, so you can draw your own holes. It'll suit anything you want. This episode's going to be a little bit different. We're actually going to highlight some of our previous cars we've built back in New Zealand. These were stock cars. So this is the first car we built here, which was based on a TL01, which had been chopped significantly and shortened. We got this car built by a friend of ours, and we exchanged the parts for it. It was not a bad car. We did alright in it. The biggest thing was it was a little bit top heavy, and we did fall over quite often in it. For you who don't know, this is a full contact sport on an oval. Normally it's done in dirt in real life, but we did it on tarmac or polished wooden floors. So you can see, it wasn't the best looking car either, but it did the job. We ended up buying it back in the state and we were going to restore it. So then we built our own car, which was a ML04L, which is rear wheel drive, which we just used the rear diff from and then made our own front end on it. This car here was actually quite successful. We won a few championships with it. Once again, it wasn't the prettiest looking car, but for our first ever car, we learnt to weld and everything on this, so we were pretty happy that it did as good as it did. We went through many meetings where we didn't actually break anything on the car. The only thing was, of course, the body because of the nature of the sport. And then, of course, as the sport evolved, everyone got flasher and flasher cars. So then we had to look at building something different. At this point in time, everyone was running TL01Bs. And so we ended up deciding we needed something a little bit different. Here's a little bit of footage that we managed to find on YouTube of the car running. So then we built a new car which was based on a TT01R, which has got a few upgrades. Just went quite well. Still wasn't perfect, but it was pretty reliable. We picked up a few wins in this car as well. We failed to win back-to-back Manual 2 champs in this because we had a servo blow in the last round. We also did a little bit of teams racing in this, and here's a little bit more footage of this car running. We then decided to have a bit of a go at running a nitro. With this was a Kyosho V1S V2. We only ever managed to do sort of 4 national meetings in it. Managed to pick up a 3rd place in the Manual 2 teams champs. Car was okay. It was a strong car, but nitros were never really my forte. Just the mess, the sound, just really didn't do anything for me. Here's a little bit of footage of it running just out on the road. We then built up a new electric car with an HPI Cyclone. This car was built purely for speed, with thin side rails, just to make it as fast as possible. We ran this car on foam tyres. You'd wear it every meeting, but just had phenomenal grip, which everyone else was just running cheap rubber tyres. We then replaced it with this car here, which is a little bit different. We had carbon fibre tube running through all the main rails and the bumpers. It's quite strong. Then we ended up going back to a TT01 just for the fact that it was very basic. You know, there's not a lot to go wrong with them. Back then, a lot of people were still running TT01s. People sort of frowned about if you ran belt drive. As you can see, this car was a little bit different. It actually had solid steel in the front and alloy base plate, and the whole car slid in from the back, so the back bumper was removable. And then we built onto a new car. We kept the TT01 platform, but we ended up changing the arms to all full alloy arms, Broadtech with longer axles. This is probably one of my favourite cars that I ever built. It was nice low with a new body that no one else had actually done before, which was the Vendetta body, which has since been ripped off by multiple different companies. This car was built sort of around to be the weight point where it was sort of good for both running and also hitting. It was quite a successful car. It ended up going on to Christchurch and actually being in a part of a team that actually did quite well in Team Champs one year, which actually based us on building our own jig, and we built many more of these cars that were very similar. Sort of one car I sort of wish I'd actually kept, but we ended up doing a little bit of teams racing, our first New Zealand teams racing with an electric. We were captain of a team which was full of a lot of young guys, sort of to help them up and coming. Did okay, didn't do the best. And then we ended up going to the New Zealand sort of 4 meetings later, which we sort of failed in the qualifying, but we managed to pick up a third in the C main, which was probably our best placing we'd ever had in a New Zealand meeting. And then we move on to some of the modifieds we built. We only ever built one of these, and this is a very cool car that we just love. You know, no one else had sort of built one that looked as realistic back then. They were all flat plate that had been laser cut, you know, not true rod like a roll cage or a real modified. For you guys that don't really know what these are, they're basically a sprint car with a car engine in them and a body. So they're a lot heavier than an actual sprint car. Once again, these are based off a real life class that we run in New Zealand. This sort of took a few weeks to muck around with, you know, adjustable wing mounts, and we ended up just putting this one up for sale as soon as it was finished with a TT01, which had a Broadtech arms, the same as our stock car, but just a plastic version, which actually gave it a more touring car feel to it, because they weren't fixed arms. You had a little bit of adjustment on them, and they ran C-hubs, etc., like a proper touring car rather than your standard TT01 hubs. Then we move on to some of our streak stocks we built. These are stock class, everyone ran TT01s, basically no upgrades other than just plastic oil-filled shocks and bearings. So we built a couple of these for ourselves. They were quite a fun class, you know, bit of panel beating involved obviously because they're a full metal chassis. And then we decided we were going to build a coupe body to be something a little bit different rather than the boxes. So this was all hand formed. It took us about a month all up to build this thing. Everyone loved it. It was just something different. We sort of misjudged our heights of our bumpers, so the first meeting sort of didn't come back too pretty. It had a lot of damage to the front end nose, so we ended up having to raise our bumpers because they sat too low and we were just getting underneath cars. But then, you know, once we adjusted the bumpers, it was actually quite a competitive car. It looks heavy, but it actually wasn't too bad. I think from memory it was not far over the minimum weight. It was around 2.7, I think, from memory. We ended up selling this car because I was just trying to juggle two cars. For me, it was not fun. We ended up selling this off, and the guy, you know, absolutely loved it. Here's the photos of it there. After we ran to the meeting, you can see it was quite bad. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this. It's just a little bit of a background into what we used to do back when we lived in New Zealand. We built these cars for a good 10 years. We built close to 100 cars all up, so it's something, you know, that's a bit of our heritage. A lot of the new viewers wouldn't have seen or heard, would no clue what these are. If you guys want to ask any questions, just send me a message. You know, I've got heaps more photos of different cars we built over the time if you guys are interested. Yeah, so till the next video, have a good one.